when I found my sister-in-law standing in my kitchen with her arms crossed, telling me, "You should start packing. This house won't be yours for long." I thought I was dreaming, but I wasn't. The scent of burnt coffee still hung in the air. The morning light slanted through the blinds, and my hands were trembling against the counter. That was the day I realized family can be the sharpest knife, especially when you've let them in too close. Normal life. Set up before everything fell apart, my home was my safe place. A modest 3-bedroom bungalow with faded blue shutters, a porch swing that creaked when the wind caught it just right, and a small herb garden by the kitchen window. My husband Raymond had built most of it himself, or at least that's what he liked to remind everyone. We'd been married for nearly 20 years. Our son, Marcus, had just started his first job out of college, and our daughter Lila was finishing her last year of high school. Things weren't perfect, but they were steady. We argued about bills sometimes, about whose turn it was to take out the trash. Small, ordinary things. Raymond's younger sister, Cheryl, lived across town with her husband Darren. She was always a bit of a whirlwind. Dramatic, impulsive, quick to anger, but somehow always landing on her feet. She'd call late at night, crying over some new crisis, and Raymond would always answer. That was his baby sister. I tried not to mind, but when Darren left her, suddenly, and for someone else, everything changed. One Sunday morning, she showed up at our doorstep with 2 suitcases. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, and a voice that could barely hold itself together. "Ray, please," she said, gripping the door frame as if the wind might blow her away. "I've got nowhere else to go." I looked at her then. The way her shoulders slumped, the way she tried to smile through the tears, and something in me softened. I couldn't turn her away, so we gave her the spare room. At first, it wasn't so bad. She'd help with dinner, make Lila laugh, even cleaned out the hall closet one afternoon without me asking. I thought, maybe this could work. Maybe she just needed time. But time, I learned, doesn't heal everyone. Sometimes it just sharpens their resentment. The first clue. Suspicion. The first sign came quietly. I noticed Cheryl had started spending a lot of time in the living room. Specifically, in Raymond's chair. It was a sturdy old recliner he loved, worn smooth from years of use. Every night after dinner, he'd sit there and read the paper or watch a game. But now, Cheryl claimed it as hers. When I'd walk in, she'd glance up from her phone and say, "Oh, you don't mind, do you? It's just more comfortable here." It was small, but it bothered me. Then, there were the comments. "This house would look so much better if you painted it white," she said one afternoon, tracing the wallpaper near the stairs. "Maybe knock down that wall." Open concept, you know? I smiled tightly. "It's fine the way it is. We like it cozy," she shrugged. Cozy's just another word for outdated. After that, she started rearranging things. First the throw pillows, then the pictures on the wall. I'd find my family photos, replaced by hers. My kitchen spices moved around. My pantry half emptied and restocked with whatever she preferred. When I asked her about it, she laughed. "I'm just helping you modernize, sis." But something about the way she said sis made my stomach twist. One evening, I overheard her talking to Raymond in the kitchen. I didn't mean to listen, but her voice carried. "She's lucky, you know," Cheryl said. "Some women wouldn't be so willing to share. I mean, this house was part of your parents' land before the split, right? Technically, it's kind of a family property." Raymond chuckled softly. "That was years ago, Cheryl. The land's divided now. This house is ours." She hummed, a low, doubtful sound. Still, paperwork doesn't erase blood. I remember standing in the hallway, my heart pounding, wondering what she meant by that. Tension built. After that conversation, things shifted. Raymond started spending more time with Cheryl, running errands for her, helping her sort through her legal papers, even driving her to her old house to pick up belongings. I tried to stay patient. He'd always been protective of her, but lately, his loyalty felt misplaced. At dinner, she'd steer conversations her way. "Ray, do you remember when Dad said the property line actually cut through this yard?" She asked once, her tone casual. "He always said this side technically belonged to him." Raymond frowned. "That was before the sale, Cheryl. It's all finalized now." But she just smiled, like she knew something he didn't. That night, I lay awake listening to the creak of the house, every sound amplifying my unease. Something wasn't right. I could feel it. A few days later, I came home from work to find a man in a blazer standing in our yard, clipboard in hand. "Can I help you?" I asked, setting down my purse. He smiled politely. "Just taking some preliminary measurements, ma'am. Your sister-in-law said there might be a title discrepancy with the property line." My pulse quickened. "She what?" He hesitated. "Mrs. Cheryl Watson. She said she's a partial owner and wanted an assessment done." I stood there, the world tilting beneath me. Cheryl was inside, leaning against the porch rail, sipping lemonade like nothing was wrong. When I confronted her, she didn't even flinch. "Oh, that," she said. "I'm just checking something." "Don't worry about it." "Checking what exactly?" I demanded. She smiled, that same slow, knowing smile. "Whether this house really belongs to you." I didn't sleep that night. I kept hearing her voice echo in my head. "Whether this house really belongs to you." I thought about every little thing she'd done. The rearranging, the comments, the way she'd made herself at home in my husband's chair. And for the first time, I wondered if she'd planned this all along. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Cheryl humming in the kitchen. I could smell bacon and coffee, my coffee, and for a moment, I almost convinced myself things were normal again. Then I saw the manila folder sitting on the counter. It had property assessment, written in bold letters across the front, and inside, pages of documents, diagrams, signatures, and copies of old deeds that looked like they'd been dug out of a courthouse basement. "Cheryl," I called, keeping my voice steady. "What is this?" She didn't even look up from the frying pan. "Oh, that. Just some paperwork I asked for." I flipped through the pages, my eyes catching on a highlighted section. Original boundary line. Watson Family Estate, 1968. "What are you doing with our deed?" She finally turned, spatula in hand, her expression maddeningly calm. "Our deed? You mean the one that might not be legally yours?" Raymond walked in just then, still tying his work boots, and froze at the sight of us. "What's going on?" "She's trying to claim the house," I said, holding up the papers. "Your sister hired a surveyor." "Relax," Cheryl said, flipping the bacon. "I'm not trying to take anything, just confirming what's rightfully mine." Raymond frowned, rubbing his temples. "Cheryl, we've been through this. The property was split decades ago. This part belongs to us now." She set down the spatula and crossed her arms. "That's what you think, but according to Dad's will, which, by the way, was never properly filed, part of this land still belongs to the Watson estate, which means me." I could feel my pulse in my ears. "You can't just show up here and decide that, Cheryl. We've lived here for 20 years. She smiled faintly. "Then you won't mind proving it in court." The pan hissed as the bacon burned, but none of us moved. For a long moment, the only sound was the ticking of the kitchen clock. Finally, Raymond broke the silence. "You're overstepping, Cheryl. This isn't just about property. This is our home." She gave a short laugh, cold and sharp. Home, family, property. Funny how those words change when money's involved. I remember the look on her face. Satisfaction mixed with bitterness. And I knew, deep down, this wasn't about land. It was about power, the aftermath. The following weeks were tense. Raymond tried to reason with her, but Cheryl refused to back down. She stayed in our house, going about her day as if nothing was wrong, humming while she cooked, making calls behind closed doors. I found envelopes from a local law office on the kitchen counter. Each time she'd snatch them away. Before I could read the return address, I told Raymond we had to set boundaries, that she couldn't keep living here while threatening us. But he hesitated. She's family, he kept saying. We can't just throw her out. Family doesn't file claims against each other, I said quietly. He looked torn, and I hated how easily she could twist him. One night, after everyone went to bed, I crept into the spare room. The door creaked open, and moonlight spilled across the floor. Her suitcases were still there, but so were several thick binders, labeled Watson Estate Holdings and Legal Correspondence. I opened one at random and froze. There, tucked between photocopies of old deeds, was a letter, typed and signed, addressed to a local real estate firm. Pending ownership confirmation, property may be eligible for sale as part of estate settlement. She was planning to sell it, our home. I didn't wake Raymond right away. I sat in the dark for a long time, staring at the wall, feeling something inside me collapse. The next morning, I confronted her. You're planning to sell the house, I said. My voice shook, but I didn't care. She didn't deny it. If it's legally mine, why shouldn't I? Because we've lived here for 2 decades. Because we built our lives here. Her eyes narrowed. You built your life on land that never belonged to you. Maybe it's time you learned what that feels like. The cruelty in her tone stunned me. Why are you doing this? She hesitated, just for a second, then said, You've always had everything, Evelyn. The nice husband, the perfect home, the kids. I got scraps. I stared at her, realizing this wasn't about justice or inheritance. It was jealousy. Raymond helped you every time you needed him, I said quietly. He loaned you money, fixed your car, bailed you out of your marriage mess. How can you repay that by stealing his home? Her jaw tightened. You wouldn't understand. No, I said. I understand perfectly. You can't stand not being the center of his world. She didn't reply. She just walked past me, grabbed her purse, and slammed the door on her way out. The action-reaction. That evening, I sat with Raymond on the porch. As the sun dipped low behind the trees, the air smelled like rain and cut grass. And for a moment, I didn't know how to tell him what I'd found. Finally, I handed him the letter. He read it in silence, his face pale in the fading light. She wouldn't do this. She already did, I whispered. He stood, pacing. No, there has to be a mistake. I'll talk to her. You can't fix this with another conversation, Ray. She's crossing lines she can't uncross. He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw the realization settle in. The woman he'd spent his life protecting was now trying to destroy the life he built. I'll call the lawyer tomorrow, he said finally. We'll see exactly what she's trying to do. That night, I locked our bedroom door for the first time since we'd moved into that house. The next morning, before dawn, I woke to the sound of the front door closing. I peered through the window and saw Cheryl outside, talking to a man in a suit beside his car. She handed him a folder, the same manila one I'd seen before. I recorded the exchange on my phone. I didn't know what it would mean yet, but something told me I'd need proof. When she came back in, I was waiting in the kitchen. Where were you? I asked. She smirked. You're awfully curious for someone who's about to lose everything. My voice was calm, but my hands were shaking. I'm done pretending you're a guest in this house. You have until Friday to find somewhere else to stay, she laughed, a low, bitter sound. You think you can evict me from my own property? Try me. Her smile faded, replaced by something darker. You'll regret this, Evelyn. I didn't answer. I just walked past her, heart pounding, and closed the door. I didn't know it then, but that confrontation was only the beginning, because the real battle was about to start. When we got home that evening, the house felt different, quieter somehow. The tension that had lived in those walls for months seemed to ease, like the house itself could finally breathe again. Raymond sank into his recliner with a long exhale. "It's over," he said softly. I stood by the kitchen counter, watching the sunset spill gold through the blinds, and realized how much lighter my chest felt. For the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for the next phone call, the next envelope, the next knock on the door, but victory didn't feel like I thought it would. There was relief, yes, but also grief. Grief for what we'd lost, that couldn't be measured in property lines or court documents. Raymond hadn't spoken to his sister since the hearing. She'd left the courthouse alone, refusing even to look back. I could still see the smallness of her figure as she walked away, her shoulders stiff, her head held high, pretending the whole world wasn't collapsing behind her. The following week, Raymond received a letter, not from a lawyer this time, from Cheryl herself. He stared at the envelope for hours before opening it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "You were always Dad's favorite," it said, "and I spent my whole life trying to prove I was just as good. Maybe now I don't have to anymore. Take care of yourself." No apology, no explanation, just that. Raymond folded the letter and set it on the mantel, beside an old family photo. The three of them as kids, grinning at the camera with muddy hands and sunburned noses. That night, he sat quietly on the porch while the crickets sang. I joined him with 2 mugs of tea. He didn't look at me when he spoke. I keep wondering if there was something I could have done different. If I could have stopped her from turning into this. I reached over, resting a hand on his. "You can love someone, Ray, but you can't save them from themselves." He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. "You're right. I just wish she'd let go of whatever it was eating her." I thought of all the little moments. Her rearranging our photos, her needling comments, her quiet envy disguised as humor. And I understood something I hadn't before. Cheryl didn't just want our house. She wanted the peace that lived inside it. And when she couldn't have it, she tried to destroy it. Life after the storm months passed. The seasons turned. Marcus got promoted at work, and Lila graduated high school with honors. The house, our house, stood firm through it all. The same blue shutters, the same porch swing that creaked in the wind. Every weekend, I'd tend to my herb garden, pruning the rosemary and mint. It became my small act of reclaiming joy. Sometimes, when I watered the plants, I'd think about Cheryl, wonder where she was, if she ever found peace. One morning, I got my answer. A letter arrived, not addressed to Raymond this time, but to me. The handwriting was shaky, barely legible. "Evelyn," it read, "I owe you an apology. You were right. I let jealousy eat away at me until there was nothing left. I've been staying with a friend upstate, trying to start over. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted to say, thank you. You protected my brother when I couldn't. Take care of him for me." There was no return address. I read it twice, then set it gently on the table. For a long time, I just sat there, tears running down my face. Not from anger, but from something closer to release. When Raymond came home, I showed him the letter. He didn't say much, just nodded and whispered, "Maybe that's her way of saying goodbye." I tucked the letter inside a photo album, between pictures of birthdays and Christmas mornings. Not as a reminder of the pain, but of what we survived. Moving forward. Few weeks later, Raymond suggested repainting the house. "Something fresh," he said. "New start." We spent an entire weekend doing it together. Laughter, music, paint splattered across our clothes. For the first time in a long while, we felt like partners again, not just survivors. When the final coat dried, the blue shutters gleamed brighter than ever, standing back. I felt something shift inside me. A sense of ownership, not just of the house, but of my own peace. I realized then that Cheryl hadn't really taken anything from us. She'd just shown us what was worth protecting. That evening, as the sun set, I brewed a pot of tea and carried 2 cups to the porch. Raymond joined me, the air warm and still around us. He looked out at the yard, now filled with the soft hum of cicadas. "You know," he said quietly, "for a while there I thought we'd lose everything." I smiled. "We almost did. But sometimes you have to lose the illusion of family to find the truth of it." He turned to me, eyes gentle. "You've always been stronger than me, Evelyn." I shook my head. "No, we just learned strength the hard way. The lesson in." The months that followed, I found a kind of peace I hadn't known before. Not the soft, easy kind, but the earned kind. The kind that comes from standing your ground, from not letting bitterness take root where love once lived. Every now and then, I still dream about Cheryl. In those dreams, she's younger again, barefoot in the grass, laughing like she used to. Maybe it's my mind's way of remembering her as she once was. Before the jealousy, before the pain. Sometimes, when the wind catches the porch swing just right, it creaks the way it did back then. I like to think it's the house reminding me, we made it through. When I look back now, I don't remember the shouting or the letters or the courtrooms first. I remember the silence that came after. That still, heavy quiet when peace finally returns. Family isn't always made of the people who share your blood. Sometimes, it's made of the ones who choose to stay, even when the walls shake and the roof creaks. And sometimes, love means closing a door. Not to shut someone out, but to protect what's inside. Cheryl taught me something I'll never forget. Envy can turn even love into poison if you let it fester. But forgiveness cleans the wound, even if the scar stays. We never heard from her again after that last letter. Maybe she's found her peace somewhere far from here. I like to think she did. As for us, Raymond and I still sit on that same porch every evening. The paint's beginning to chip again, and the swing still moans in the wind. But I don't mind. It's a reminder that even after the storm, life keeps moving. Imperfect, but steady. So if you've ever had someone in your life who tried to take what you built, remember this. No one can truly steal your peace unless you hand it over. Thank you for listening to my story. Would you have let her stay, or would you have sent her away sooner? Tell me what you would have done. I'd love to hear your heart in the comments below. And if you'd like to hear more stories like mine, about love, loss, and learning to stand tall again, make sure you subscribe and stay for the next cup of tea with me. Until then, take care of your home and take care of your peace.